have any, I guess we could say, lessons learned that we could share with not only our audience and the students, but the international community to not only necessarily become involved, but again to kind of, I guess maybe a call to action, or how we could, incorporate, your experience or share your experience to again be effective and help other individuals.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think earlier in the bio you mentioned that my TEDx talk, which is on investing versus helping, and this is something that I really believe in and I share with any community that I speak to. And let me elaborate a little bit on that. And I do believe that it can lend itself to the international community and other governing bodies. I really, when I work with marginalized populations, people from my community, what I encourage them to do is, really look for people to invest in them rather than help them. And vice versa, so individuals that reach out and are looking to, who have the resources and the tools and the time and they want to give back, how can they do it? They can either help or they can invest. And the distinction I make around investing versus helping is, the idea of like sponsoring versus offering aid, right? And the whole theme and idea of aid is pretty prevalent in the international community, especially as it relates to human rights. When I think of aid and I think of helping, I think of an imbalance of power, and it's usually short-lived. It's assuming that one person has power and is more superior, and the other does not. So let me help you. Let me give you this charity, and it's short-lived, and it really, I personally don't feel that the person who is helping the other individual necessarily sees him or her. And when you think about it, sometimes when we're giving charities to a certain cause, do we really know where that money is going? Right? We're just giving it, right? And there's no follow-up. And so I really believe that the person who is offering should bear also the responsibility of following through. And so that's why I really believe in this whole idea of investing. And investing doesn't have to be financial. It can be time. It's the idea of mentorship. So this is how I got to where I got to. It started with that benefactor in boarding school who wanted to help me, right? That was he and his wife's idea was, let's give her money, let's help her get, finish boarding school, go through boarding school, and did not want me to know who he and his wife were, right? So that was really from the perspective of, let me help her, and and we can maintain this distance. But what I will people to do is to invest in me. Like, no, you're not going to just help me. I'm not charity. I am a person. You're going to see me. We're going to have a relationship, and there's something you're going to get out of this too. Like, it's not that you're superior to me. So I really want anyone I mentor, I really try to instill that value in them. That's literally what has gotten me to where I am today. To this day, that's just how I live my life. And I really, when I have people reach out to me and say, well, how can I help? How can I, help this community? I'm like, well, you can be an investor, and this is how you can begin doing that. So that's, one thing. And along those lines, it's the savior complex, right? When people want to support others, I really think that sometimes, certain individuals assume this sort of superiority, this savior-like complex of, let me help these poor people. And I particularly, I actually had a conversation with, resource providers. Sometimes it's immigration lawyers or lawyers themselves, right? It's really a lack of maybe empathy, and sometimes not actually seeing the other person who's sitting across from you, right? Seeing them as a case, as a situation, but not as a person. And so these are the two things that I look to share with others, and help to kind of break down and dismantle so we can